The sound of the judgment bell echoed across Echelon Prime as Mira stood before the glass tribunal, her heart pounding. The chamber shimmered with blue light, and hundreds of citizens watched from behind transparent walls. Above her head, a holographic display flickered. Body code, 4.9 unfit for elite status. The words glowed like fire, sealing her fate. Myra's throat tightened. She wasn't a criminal. She hadn't stolen, lied, or hurt anyone. Her only crime was existing in a body that didn't fit the image of perfection the city demanded. The judges, dressed in gleaming silver robes, exchanged nods. One spoke in a calm, mechanical tone. Mira Avayan, under Section 23 of the Physical Purity Act, you have failed your civic maintenance duties. As a result, your privileges are revoked. You are hereby reassigned as servant-class citizen to the agricultural sector of Dustplane 47. Report immediately for relocation. Gasps rippled through the audience. A few smirked. Others looked away in shame. Her mother, seated in the front row, turned her face toward the floor. Mira wanted to cry out, to beg for mercy, but she knew the city had no place for emotion. Her father didn't even look at her as the guards approached. His hand, once so warm, now trembled at his side, hiding the family's disgrace. They took her through the corridor of glass, past mirrors that reflected her rounded face and soft body, each reflection accompanied by a digital label: inefficient, non-compliant, burden. She tried not to look. She had believed all her life that if she just smiled enough, studied hard, and helped others, she'd find her place in this shining world. But the world had already decided her value. Outside, the sky of Echelon Prime shimmered with metallic clouds. The city floated above the barren earth, suspended by anti-gravity fields powered by solar vanes. Mira had loved those lights once. Now, as she was escorted toward the transport station, she realized how cold they really were. The hover train waiting at the terminal was nothing like the sleek capsules she'd seen before. This one was rusted, its engine wheezing like an old animal. The guard pushed her inside. The seats were cracked, the windows opaque with dust. She sat alone as the door sealed shut and the train jolted forward. Through the vibration of the steel, she could feel the city fading behind her. The journey lasted hours. The further they traveled, the dimmer the world became. The air outside thickened with orange haze, the lights of the elite towers shrinking into dots. When the train finally stopped, the doors opened to a wasteland of red soil and wind-scarred hills. A sign flickered in the dust. Dustplane 47, Agricultural Zone. Restricted access. Mira stepped out, squinting against the sunlight. The heat pressed down on her, heavy and real, so different from the sterile climate-controlled air she had grown up in. There were no drones, no glowing roads, no people at all, just the hum of wind turbines turning lazily in the distance. A figure stood near the horizon, watching her. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in worn linen, his skin tanned and weathered. A farmer, or so she thought. As she walked closer, she could see kindness in his eyes, something she hadn't seen in Echelon Prime for years. "You must be the girl they sent," he said, his voice calm, almost amused. "I'm Ronan." Mira nodded nervously. "Yes, sir. I was told to serve at your farm. I'll do whatever is required." He studied her for a moment, then smiled faintly. "Serve? No, we don't use that word here." He picked up a crate from the ground and handed it to her gently. "You're here to help me grow something important. Come. The sun won't wait." The next morning, Mira woke to the sound of wind whispering through metal reeds. The farmhouse was small but strangely clean, with walls that hummed softly as if energy flowed within them. She sat up on her cot, expecting to hear the harsh tone of an overseer or the cold bark of a command, but there was only silence and the faint rhythm of something beating beneath the floor. When she stepped outside, she saw Ronan already working in the fields, his hands deep in the soil that shimmered faintly under the morning light. The land looked nothing like the dying earth she'd seen from the train window. Here, the ground pulsed with faint veins of light, like electricity running through roots. Strange blue-green plants sprouted in neat rows, their leaves translucent and humming softly, releasing vapor that smelled faintly of ozone. Ronan looked up as she approached. "You slept well," he said, wiping his hands on his tunic. "Good. The roots need balance today." Mira hesitated. "I don't know how to farm," she admitted. Ronan chuckled. Neither do I, he said simply, and that confused her even more. He showed her how to pour shimmering liquid from a container onto the plants, how to press her palm gently into the earth until the glow beneath it softened. You don't force it, he said. You listen to it. As she worked, Mira noticed that the plants reacted to her touch more than his. When she pressed her hand into the soil, the blue veins brightened and spread further, like the earth itself recognized her. Ronan watched quietly but said nothing. By midday, sweat covered her forehead, but she didn't feel exhausted. She felt strangely light, as though the soil was giving her strength instead of taking it. Later, as they ate lunch on the farmhouse porch, Mira picked at one of the small silver cubes Ronan placed on her plate. What are these? She asked. Nutrient cells, he replied. They grow from the soil like the others. Everything you taste here comes from this ground. She bit into one. It dissolved instantly, leaving behind a rush of warmth in her chest and clarity in her mind. It was food, but it felt alive. This isn't normal agriculture, she said finally. This land, it's different. It hums. It listens. Ronan looked toward the horizon where the glowing fields stretched endlessly. You're right, he said softly. And that's why they sent you here. That night, Mira couldn't sleep. The farmhouse creaked under the wind, and she could hear that faint pulsing again, the heartbeat of the ground. She followed the sound down the narrow staircase that led beneath the kitchen. At the bottom was a locked door made of steel, faintly glowing at the edges. But as she stood there, the lock clicked by itself, and the door slid open soundlessly. The air below was warm and filled with a low hum that vibrated through her bones. She stepped into a vast underground chamber, and gasped. Beneath the farm, thousands of glass pods lined the walls, each filled with soft blue light. Inside every pod floated something like a seed, but it pulsed, breathed, shimmered like a tiny brain suspended in liquid. The entire chamber stretched farther than she could see, glowing softly like a sleeping city. Footsteps echoed behind her. You weren't supposed to find this yet, Ronan said quietly, though there was no anger in his voice. Mira turned, trembling. What are these? They look alive. He nodded, his face solemn. They are alive, and they're waiting for someone who can wake them. Her heart raced. You mean me? Ronan smiled faintly, stepping beside her. Maybe. The government calls me a farmer, but this isn't a farm. It's a cradle, and these are its